In this video, we're going to look at writing equations of a line. So our essential question today will be, how do I write an equation of a line? How do I write an equation of a line? So the main equation that we're going to be working with today is that one from 4.1, our y equals mx plus b. Add some color to this. I'm going to put m as red, and we'll make b green. Y equals mx plus b. So when we're finding the equation of a line, what we'll need to do is identify the slope and the y-intercept. So I want to skip line A for now and just kind of jump into these. And so I want to start with B, line B right here. I want to identify my y-intercept. So here's my y-axis. And it's intercepting right at this point right here. So that point is 0, 2. So for line B, we're over here, line B, my y-intercept would be 2. Now let's find our slope. Well, I need to find a point to start from. So we'll start right here. They're intersecting the grid right there. And then moving left to right. So I go down 1. So that's a negative 1. And then I'll go over, starting here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get to that point. So that's negative 1. That's our rise is negative 1. Run is 5. So my slope is negative 1 over 5. And now we just plug these values in to this equation, to our y equals mx plus b. Y equals will stay y equals. M will turn into that number, negative 1/5, and b will turn into 2. So we'll have y equals negative 1/5 x plus 2. Plugging my m in, plugging my b in. So let's look at line D next. D. Right at the gate, if we're reading it from left to right, is this line going up or down? Down. So if I know that my line is moving in a downward direction, I can expect my slope to be positive or negative. If we're going down, left to right, we're going down, so we know our slope's going to end up being negative. So let's go ahead and identify our two main points. We need to find the y-intercept and the slope. So this is my y-axis. It looks like I intercept right there. And that's a positive 1. So we'll say b equals 1. We're on line D, so we're right here. And then I see my other point up here. Looks like we're crossing right there. So I can start here and count to this one. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. That's a negative 3. And then I go over 1. So my slope will be negative 3 over 1. Now let's write our equation. We'll have y equals negative 3 over 1 x plus 1. So there's line D. So let's look at line E. Just identifying our slope and our y-intercept. So first identify your slope, identify your y-intercept, then identify your slope, then plug them in. So if you would, please try line E right now. pause and try on your own. Okay, so if we took the chance to try this on your own, it looks like this point is right at the origin. So I'm going to say that my y-intercept is 0. So we'll say b equals 0. And then if we find another point, looks like I have a point right here. So we'll go up 1, 2, 3. That's a positive 3. And then over 2. So I can see my slope is 3 over 2. And we'll plug all this stuff into our equation, and we have y equals 3 over 2x plus 0. But if I have a plus 0, I don't really need to write it. So we could slim this down into y equals 3 over 2x. Okay, on our next couple of examples, I do want to look at line A and C. Those are special cases. So remember from our last lesson, when we have a vertical line, what's the only value that's consistent here? Well, when I look at it, I'm looking at all my points. If we just plot a couple points, we can see that this is -3, -2. We have right here would be -3, -4. I could come up here and have -3, 4. What's the only value that's consistent? Well, it's the x value, and it equals -3. So for a vertical line, we'll say x equals -3. And say we're looking at a horizontal line, such as line C. We just want to think about that only consistent value. So if we look at a bunch of different points, I'd have 3, -1. Over here I'd have -4, -1. We can look at this point where we see it's 0, -1. And what's the only value that's consistent? Well, the y value is the only consistent value, so we can say y equals -1. So vertical lines will always have an x equals, and you just have to find that x value that is for all the points. And a horizontal line will be a y equals, and we just have to find that y value that the line passes through for all the points. Okay, so next we want to write an equation in slope-intercept form. So let's write that slope-intercept form down as a reminder. Y equals mx plus b. And we're just given the words. This is a b. So we're given the words that write the equation of a line that has a slope of -3. Slope, which letter is slope? M or B? This will be our M. And then we have our y-intercept off the page. Y-intercept of 4. So when it's a y-intercept, is that our M or B, or our B? And this will be our B. Now we just plug and play. So we have y equals my slope, -3. And we have x plus, and what's the y-intercept? 4. So if you would, please go ahead and pause right here and try letter B on your own. Okay, so hopefully you took the chance to try this on your own. We want to write the equation of a line that has a slope of 5. Slope, letter M goes with slope, and a y-intercept of -10, which will be our B. And we just plug in. So y equals, slope is M is 5, x plus y-intercept will be -10. Okay, let's turn to the next page in our notes. Now these are a little interesting because we have to actually do a little algebra to find our y-intercept. So how this works is, I'll identify my slope. My slope is, so we want to write the equation of the line that has a slope of -3 and passes through the point 4, 1. So we have a slope of -3. There's our M. But are we given, oops, wrong problem. So write the equation of the line that has a slope of -3 and passes through the point 41. So we're given a slope, but are we given a y-intercept? We are not. What we are given, though, is a x and a y. So if I'm looking at my equation, y equals mx plus b. Let's identify all the things we have. Do we have a y? We have a y. Y is 1. Do we have an m? We have an m. Our m will be -3. Do we have an x? We have an x is 4. What we don't have is a b. But using all three of these, can I figure out what b equals? Yeah, I can. I just got to plug those in. So what I'm going to do is take my y equals 1, plug it in. 1 equals, m is -3. Remember, when it's letters next to each other, that's multiplication, so -3 times x is 4. And we add b. Now we're just solving for b. Pretty straightforward. 1 equals -12 plus b. Add 12 to both sides, and we get b equals 13. But we're not done with the problem, because remember, the main point of this problem was write the equation of a line. And the equation of a line has to be written like this. So this part is how we have to finish it. So I need to plug in my m, I need to plug in my b, and then I'm done. So we'll have y equals, what's our m? -3x, and then what's our b? 13. Now we're done with the problem. So I'd like you to try one of these on your own. So to do that, go ahead and try letter D on your own. Pause right here, and then we'll look at it together. Okay, so hopefully you tried this on your own. So we're going to still do, it's the same process as that letter C. I like to identify all my parts. So I have my slope right here, there's my m, and then here's my x, and here's my y. We're going to use the equation y equals mx plus b. We'll plug in our given values. I have a y is -4 equals, I have my m is 1/2 times m times x. There's my 8. And then I'm going to plus b, because b is what we're hunting down. I'm trying to figure out what b equals. So now we simplify. -4 equals 1/2 times b is 4 plus b. We'll subtract 4 from both sides. So we get -8. That almost looks like a plus sign. Let's fix that. So we get -8 is equal to b. Now we have our b. We have our m. Let's build our equation like we did in the previous one. So we'll do y equals 1/2 x plus -8. There we go. And now we know our y-intercept is -8. So we could start graphing at -8 and then using our slope of 1/2. Okay, so I have one more example that I want to show you and one more that I want you to try on your own. Just because now we're going to bring it all together. It's a kind of a combination of C and D and what we did 2 lessons ago when we had to find the slope. Because if I look at E, write the equation of a line that passes through the points 2, -3, and -2, 5. So what am I given? Well, or what am I looking for? Let's discuss that first. I have y equals mx plus b. Are we given a slope? We're not given a slope, so we need to find that slope. So we need to find the slope, and we're not given a b, so we need to find the b. Those are our big questions we need to answer to solve this problem. But I am given 2 points. So how can I use these 2 points to help me figure out these 2 items? Well, we just discussed that if I have a slope in one point, I can figure out what b is. But unfortunately, I don't have a slope. All I have is 2 points. So how can I use the 2 points to find a slope? We can use that slope formula. So let's go ahead and identify or label all our items. I'm going to use green for this. I have x1, y1, and then over here I have x2, y2. So now I can lean on my previous knowledge to figure this out. And we'll use that m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And this will help us find our slope. So let's plug in. I have m is equal to y2 is 5. 5 minus, where's y1? Oh, there's y1, negative 3. So 5 minus a negative 3. 5 minus, and y1 is negative 3. So keep that straight. That's often sometimes a mistake we make. Then I have x2 minus x1. So I'll have x2, 2 minus x1, which is 2. Oh, did I mess up? x2 is negative 2. x2 is negative 2. I'm sorry about that. So negative 2 minus 2 will equal 5 plus 3 is 8 over negative 2 minus 2 will be negative 4. Simplify and we'll get negative 2. If you want to put that over 1, we can. Now I have my slope, I have my m, and now I can use either point. Doesn't matter which point. If you use either point, you will get the same b. So we can say, so let's use the first point. Negative 3 is equal to, what's my m? Negative 2. What's my x? But if I'm using this negative 3, I have to use the x that goes with this y. So if I'm using this negative 3, then I have to use this 2. But if I did it the other way, I could have used 5 first, but then I have to use negative 2. So make sure you keep that straight. So we have negative 3, so I'm using that y, equals negative 2, there's my m, times a positive 2, there's my x that I'm using that's associated with that y, and then plus b. Because we're just trying to figure out what b is, then we'll plug it all in and we're done with the problem. So we have negative 3 is equal to negative 4 plus b. Solving for b, we add 4 to both sides, and we get 1 is equal to b. We're almost done. Now it's the, I don't want to say an easy step, but the easier of all this process, just plugging in. We have our m. Here's our m. We have our b. Here's our b. Now let's plug into our equation. Y equals mx plus b, and we'll get y equals negative 2x plus 1. And if you wrote in that over 1 right here, that is not a problem. Both are correct. If you don't have the over 1, you're correct. If you have the over 1, you're correct. Okay, so right here, I'd like you to pause. Please try F on your own, and then we'll be done with our notes. Ooh, quick note. Real quick, when you read this, write the equation, a line that passes through the point 64, and the origin. The origin is a word we'll need to know, and that implies that we're looking at the point 0, 0. Okay, so pause here and try this on your own. Okay, so first we'll want to find the slope. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So let's label. I have x1, y1, x2, y2. So I'm plugging in. y2, 0 minus 4 over 0x2 minus 6 will equal negative 4 over negative 6, which will equal negative divided by negative is positive, and simplifying we get a positive 2/3. So there's my m. Now let's pick a point to use. I know in the first one I used x1, y1, but here we have x2, y2 is 0, 0, and oh my goodness, is 0, 0 easy to use, so let's use that. So we're plugging into our equation y equals mx plus b. I have a y, 0 equals 2/3 is my m, times 0 from my x plus b. We simplify and we get 0 equals 0 plus b. 0 plus b is b, so we get 0 equals b. So I have my m, And I have my b. I gotta make my b's better so they don't look like 6s. Now let's plug into our equation, and we'll have y equals 2/3 x plus 0. And if I want to simplify this, kind of clean it up, I could write y equals 2/3 x. And that's our notes on writing equations of a line. I know this video is kind of long, but thank you for sitting through it. And hopefully this process is making sense and we can follow along. So have a great day.